Hello, you're watching news from Kazakhstan. I'm Oscar Sherleaf, and these are the top stories. 3 Shymkent policemen admitted using firearms during Shetpe raids. During the pre-trial investigation, they claim to have been following orders of the superiors, but now retract their earlier testimonies. Meanwhile, defendants continue exposing torture practices. Following Kazakhmys Corporation employees who were promised a raise, similar demands are now made by the staff of Kazakhstan central heating plant. Verdicts in 2 terrorism cases have been announced in Atyrau. In total, 42 people are sentenced to various prison terms. Verdicts to 42 people charged with terrorist attacks last August and October have been announced in Atyrau. At the same time, a man with 2 makeshift bombs was arrested in the city on Wednesday.
При задержании у него автомашине ВАЗ-21012 было обнаружено 2 самодельных взрывных устройства.
2 explosive devices were found in the car of the 30-year-old Atyrau resident who appeared to be a follower of non-traditional religious movement.
Является приверженцем нетрадиционного религиозного течения. В настоящее время возбуждено уголовное дело.
2 terrorist attacks shocked Atyrau last year. One in August, one an extremist group member died while resisting arrest, and then 2 more blasts, including a suicide bombing in October. Obscure group Caliphate soldiers claimed the responsibility for these cases. Yesterday, the court made a decision regarding 42 people linked to the explosions. They were sentenced to varying terms from 5 to 15 years in prison. It was announced that the trial for 5 extremists accessory to the same terrorist attacks took place on April 2nd. They were sentenced up to 12 years. All convicts eventually pleaded guilty. On April 18th, the Specialized Inter-District Criminal Court of Atyrau region announced the sentence to the terrorist group comprising 42 people. The prison terms varies from 5 to 15 years in prison. The court found them guilty of being part of the terrorist cell.
On Wednesday, during the Aktau trial over the riots at Shetpe station, 3 policemen revealed they've indeed used firearms. All 3 claim they acted in self-defense when their lives were in danger and shot their weapons into the air. At the same time, officers failed to explain to court the exact danger from civilians and produced muddled testimonies as a result.
It becomes more obvious that police officers shoot to kill unarmed people and overstep their authority. Yesterday, 3 police officers from Shymkent detached to Aktau for questioning as victims gave their confessions. One by one, officers got lost in their own early testimonies, saying that they were given no orders and opened fire in defense only. At the same time, Shymkent officers Tandebaev, Nurjanov and Bakhtibaev confirmed during the preliminary investigation that the order to use firearms was given by the higher command. Here is Sergeant Tandebaev's testimony. As is written here, I was shooting into the air, I was not shooting at people. No, it's a different question. We want to know about the order. No one was giving any orders, we were shooting into the air. I don't understand, we are going in circles here. I'm forced to ask this again. Was there an order to open fire? No one gave any orders. Then why did you lie about during the preliminary investigation? Were you giving a false answer? No, I was not. Then how should we understand this answer? When we became desperate, no one was giving any orders. We started shooting in the air in self-defense. We were shooting to return people. Perhaps there was a reason to write it down like this. No, there wasn't any. Sergeant Tandebaev also told the court about his injury. A rock hit his temple during unrest. The attorney asked how a rock could hit the officer's temple if he wore a protective helmet, seemed to catch Tandebaev off guard. He only managed to say that he came to collect compensation for emotional and material damages. The questioning of other victims, Nurjanov and Bakhtibaev, wasn't much helpful either. They both reiterated that fired their Makarovs only into the air and only in self-defense. During the investigation, all of them claimed to shoot into the air by order, and now they say that they did it on their own. Marjana Spandiarov, as NSDP member who monitors the trial, says orders are given at the highest level when fully equipped MIA officers are deployed to the other region by air. That's why she does not believe that support officers could use firearms at their own initiative. Everything what we are seeing, copy-paste officers' testimonies, investigators' action, etc., all point to a reached trial, but it's done so poor and unimaginable that's hard to even comment it. Meanwhile, the date of the trial against officers who exceeded their authority during mass riots in Zhanaozen was set for April 27. The first hearing will be held in the Specialized Inter-District Criminal Court of Aktau, with Gulmajan Adil Sultani as presiding judge.
Meanwhile, defendants in the Zhanaozen violence case continued exposing torture practices they have endured during the pre-trial investigation. Defendants claim law enforcement personnel used all of their equipment to get confessions, including guns, pistols, batons and helmets.
Did you see who was shooting? When I came closer, I got shot. Policemen were shooting at that time. I don't know who it was exactly, but it was one of the policemen. Defendants Gairat Adilov and Marat Amilov told in detail how the investigators offered them to name any 10 or 15 names in exchange for acquittal and passing as witnesses. Defendants refused. After that, they were subjected to tortures. According to Abdurrahmanov, another defendant, investigators went even further and humiliated them, forcing them to sing and even imitate birds and planes. One of the defendants never even left home during the days of unrest, and the police still picked him up right from his house. Defendants speak about tortures for already 2 weeks now. Roza Tulitaeva recently testified about excruciating tortures she had to go through during the investigation. In particular, she said that she had been strangled and pulled by her hair. Arman Jamenov, the attorney, believes that defendants' need to share the horrors is related to the fear they all have. The trial is open and they're tired of being scared. As the saying goes, they've turned into knights. They've opened up their souls and shared every little fear that they have inside. Many defendants took the floor today and all spoke of tortures. The number of defendants with torture statements is rising with every passing day.
The names of police officers who gave the order to open fire at civilians were revealed during Zhanaozen trial on Wednesday.
Farhad Duisimbayev, the defendant, noted in his testimony that he personally heard Ulukbek Multikov, the head of the Mangistau regional DIA, giving the order to open fire with intent to kill as he was walking in front of the armed police squad. Meanwhile, the names of those who ordered to use firearms against civilians have not been disclosed to this day. Earlier, public activists said that high-rank officials might be involved. We should speak openly of Musin's political and criminal liability. This man has the dirtiest background. I have known many administrative heads, but I've never met such a double-faced, cruel pretender. If Nazarbayev is ever made accountable historically and politically, Musin will surely be one of sharing the blame, because it was he who gave the order to Kasimov, and Kasimov doesn't deny this. What kind of a minister or internal affairs is that? The order was given by Nazarbayev, and this is my personal opinion. Everyone knows who is to blame. I know, you know, and the people know. We are now pretending that we should seek justice, but why should we request justice when the only thing to do is to call up Nazarbayev's name and demand his impeachment?
The three policemen who gave conflicting testimonies on Wednesday are all natives of Shymkent. This is what other residents of the city say about police using firearms during the riots.
All these actions are illegal. I don't know, but I don't think so. Shymkent cop wouldn't shoot. I don't like it, of course. This is the worst thing when a person shoots peaceful citizens. Whatever it was, I think that police always must have peaceful means to resolve issues.
70,000 policemen will have to undergo unscheduled proficiency evaluation, said on Wednesday Nurdilda Oras, the official Internal Affairs Ministry representative. The tests will begin around May or June, although the exact date hasn't been set yet.
Right after the amendments will be made to the legislation, the entire personnel of the Internal Affairs Ministry will have to pass the unscheduled certification test irrespective of their positions and number of years served, with the Chief Department Officer as the only exception. There are 177 executives in total in the Senior Accreditation Committee under the President of Kazakhstan. Adherence to anti-corruption legislation and official activities review, those will be crucial factors determining whether law enforcement officers should stay or go. At the same time, long-serving officers no longer have immunity. The country's MPs stated that the certification process will be open to public to exclude possible bribing scenarios. Mukhtar Tinikeyev, however, notes that there are some officers who didn't like the idea. There are, of course, some old-timers who dislike the idea. When young lieutenants fresh from the academy see some fat colonel driving a Porsche car and living a luxurious life, they also think, I want that.
On Wednesday, internet users were unable to access website zhanozen.net, created to cover the trial and collect information related to the December riots. The resource's editors believe the website was subjected to a new wave of DOS attacks. In the meantime, a well-known TV host and producer Nikolai Rerich gave his comments about the accusation made by the president's political advisor Yermuhamed Yirtysbayev, who linked Kazakh independent media with terrorism.
I'm afraid it was just an outburst of desperation. Yermuhamed Yirtysbayev is known for being quite an emotional person who would employ all the power of the word to be a narrator. No surprise he goes off calling Kazakh journalists terrorists. I don't think we should take his words serious. These are just words. A well-known journalist, Vladimir Rerich, who came to Almaty upon the invitation of the Art and Shock Theatre, said that Zhanozen events will take a special place in the history of independent Kazakhstan. He expressed his sympathy to all victims and families of those who died during the mass disorders. Rerich explained that the closed nature of the trial is related with the complexity of the case, since the involvement of media could complicate things.
Recently pardoned public activist Aydos Sadikov believes Zhanozen events to be a turning point for Kazakhstan, although it is not clear in what way the situation will change exactly.
Despite the fact that Western countries are critical of Kazakhstan for persecuting the opposition and journalists and for Zhanozen violence, the government is still finding room for maneuvers. I mean those attempts to demonstrate that they are making concessions by releasing some of political prisoners, but as a matter of fact, I believe these are not but wise tactical moves. Aydos Sadikov says when the authorities released him, as well as Zhovtis, Narımbayev, Sokolova and Vinyavsky, they didn't show the European Union their will for negotiation and cooperation, although at the same time a number of other opposition leaders and public activists are facing various criminal charges. Sadikov, who was recently granted an amnesty, believes that this is a sign that the government is not ready to make serious concessions, neither to the opposition, nor to the people on the whole.
The family of Dinyakins will soon mark a year since the death of their son Kirill. The Karaganda native was killed by policemen in Portsmouth, USA. The family has lost a civil case, while a criminal one was never instigated. The court has fully acquitted officer Stephen Rankin, which prompted Kazakh authorities to attempt an appeal, although financial difficulties have been encountered along the way.
На данный момент посольство Казахстана в США.
At this point, the Embassy of Kazakhstan in the United States has filed a notice of appeal. Financing remains an open question. The lawyers need to be paid. Filing an appeal is not that easy. Nothing is done on its own. According to Yelena Dinyakina, so far the Kazakh party has only paid the legal bills to the lawyer from Washington who filed the appeal. Now it is necessary to hire specialists to further process Kirill's case. This will cost as much as $30,000. To date, however, the mother of the murdered young man has received no reply from the Foreign Ministry of the Kazakh government. Yelena found out that the appeal procedure in the United States may take up to a year. The woman was confirmed by the consulate representatives that the inquiry for reviewing both the criminal and civil cases is now being processed by the Ministry of Justice of the United States of America at the insistence of the Kazakh party. The ministry representatives will voice the verdict in a month.
Russian citizen Gapur Garchkhanov, currently serving his term in a Pavlodar jail, intends to continue his 2-month-long hunger strike. The 44-year-old was sentenced to 20 years on charges of creating a criminal group. Garchkhanov's family is trying to appeal the verdict and intend to ask for support from the Russian authorities.
Мы будем обращаться к послу России и министру России.
We will reach out to the ambassador and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation to seize the groundless prosecution. I'm not going to make any statements. I'm not begging to get him out or take unlawful measures. All I'm asking to do is follow the law.
Или какие-то меры незаконные. Ну, по закону делайте.
During 2 months of protest, Gapur Gorchkanov has lost more than 10 kilograms. However, he is not going to stop hunger striking. The convict believes that the sentence imposed on him by the court of primary jurisdiction is unfair. Meanwhile, Gorchkanov is not the only hunger striker in the detention center. Another prison inmate, considering himself a victim of unfair trial, has been refusing to take food for more than 40 days. The detention center administration is preparing to take decisive actions towards the protesters.
Если они не будут кушать, также будут.
If they continue to refuse food and keep on hunger striking, thus placing themselves at risk, we will have no choice but opt for a forced feeding.
Приниматься меры по принудительному кормлению.
Employees of Zhezkazgan Central Heating Plant belonging to Kazakhmys Corporation are collecting signatures under the appeal of the chairman, Eduard Agay. People want to see their salaries raised, although admit the leadership of the company is reluctant to listen to the staff demands.
The people are afraid and they don't like the idea of raising the salary in return for abandoning the initiative group and keeping everything within the TTP walls. We want the shop floor workers to get at least $400 off the books. According to the power plant employees, during the last meeting they were promised a pay rise of 30%, half of which would be allocated from the directors' fund. But the staff was not happy with the deal. Zhebeka Singabulova is a chemical shop shift supervisor, but her after-tax salary doesn't even reach $300. She has a 5-year-old daughter and lives with her pensioner mother, who is forced to work part-time as a night guard for $100 a month just to make the end meet. The plant employees complained that they all have outstanding debts even for things like winter clothing. Thus, people believe poverty to be smaller of the two evils is compared to a wrath of the top brass, especially since their health is also at stake. That is why the initiative group keeps notes at the meetings and collects signatures for the appeal to the Kazakhmys board chair. As far as I know, last year they completed proficiency testing procedure. As soon as all data is processed, they will be transferred to a new compensation plan.
In the meantime, Kazakhmys has frozen the annual salary of the board chair Vladimir Kim. He will not be able to collect over £1 million following the corporation sustaining losses. According to Bloomberg, Kazakhmys has dropped its unprofitable petroleum division last year, which resulted in the loss of about $500,000.
In the meantime, according to the Global Witness anti-corruption organization, the company had paid the dividends of 22 cents per share in 2010 alone. In other words, Vladimir Kim made more than $32 million, 30 of which went through the multi-corporate enterprise registered in Liechtenstein. The Kazakhmys Public Affairs Office refused to comment on the income of the company's senior manager. Experts claim, though, the shareholders and public must have access to information about Kazakhmys investors, as the issue involves quite impressive finances. I believe this is a public company and they must reveal any information of such kind. I believe if the salary payments are frozen, then they likely compensated through additional bonuses. In other words, at the end of the operational year, the company pays a part of the remaining profit among the main shareholders. This is the likeliest scenario. The Global Witness had reported numerous times that the lack of transparency in Kazakhmys raises investors' concern. As of today, there is still no complete information about the company's owners. In the meantime, there are rumors that President Nazarbayev has a direct influence over the company's decision-making. The files of the anti-corruption organization show the company representatives refused to provide the document indicating the ownership rights during its annual shareholders meeting held in London. At the same time, Kazakhmys board of directors is officially chaired by Vladimir Kim, who alone owns more than a quarter of the company through Kuprum Holding BV and 2.5 through other companies. According to Maxim Kaznachev, Kim was planned to leave the company a year later, but seems to have changed his decision and is now moving his assets elsewhere. He had started transferring his assets out of the country a long time ago, and he's not the only one among the elite. Moreover, you should consider the situation in Kazakhmys in general. A man who used to patronize him, Vladimir Ni, is no longer among us. It's obvious that in such situation, the company sooner or later will go under state control, as major part of the stock was already transferred to Samruk Kazna Fund.
On Wednesday, representatives of the General Prosecution Office and members of Kazakhstan's parliament asked the Prime Minister to make the penalties for disrespecting state symbols more severe.
The inquiry was voiced by Bakhtibek Smagulov. The punishment should be tougher than a penalty at a rate of 1,000 minimum calculation indexes and custodial restraint for up to a year. Smagulov believes the criminal code norms are way too lenient. The patriotic MP is also confident that it makes sense to set up a mass production of national symbols in Kazakhstan rather than outsource it to China. The suggestion gained support of the other MPs and spokesman Nurlan Nigmatulin. The appeal was incited by a series of controversial episodes involving national symbols of Kazakhstan. In March, during the medal ceremony for the athlete Marina Dmitrienko, a soundtrack from Borat was played instead of the national anthem. And recently, the workers in Atrau used the national flag for cleaning the street. Where else on earth would you see people carrying trash inside the national flag? It's not just about cleaning streets, it's about the national dignity. Fines are not enough, the violators must be put in jail. Until the consequences are confined to severe punishment, the whole initiative will remain nothing more than rants.
Adilet Yeleusov, the leader of the youth association Samruk, is ready to go on a hunger strike in protest of the recently introduced testing for college graduates.
This year, Kazakhstan's Education and Science Ministry had introduced a mandatory testing of college graduates who want to enter universities. They have to pass a test similar to the one of high school graduates. Even though there are only 3 months left before the testing, not many people know about it. Therefore, Pavlodar students decided to protest against this initiative of education authorities. They drafted an open appeal signed by thousands of young people to be forwarded to the president's administration. In case of the authorities ignoring their demands, some of the students are ready to go on hunger strike. If the Education and Science Ministry will not respond to our appeal, then as the leader of the Samruk public organization, I'm ready to launch a hunger strike to protest against this initiative. As we were holding this press conference, I noticed that I'm not the only one, there are many others who will join me.
Following the initiative of the ruling party Nuratan, several youth organizations in Almaty took part in the cleaning of the park named after the first president. The organizers failed to explain why the action was carried out in the middle of the week and not during the weekend.
The park, named after the first president of Kazakhstan, is a place which has a symbolic meaning to all Kazakh people. As you may know, upon the initiative of our cultural elite, a monument depicting our president was installed last year. And of course, this became a place where we can gather young people, talk to them and set good example for them. Because if you look around, you will see that the president's park can serve an example to every other park in the country. Despite the classes were in progress, the event brought together around 400 students. They pursue one goal: to preserve monuments of cultural and historical heritage. Interestingly, students and activists consider polishing off Nazarbayev's monument as meeting their goal. We need to encourage people to care more about the cultural monuments. They need to be well maintained and look attractive.
This is all we have time for now. Join us again tomorrow or check for more updates our Facebook and YouTube pages. Thank you for watching and goodbye.